The government of Sierra Leone recognizes that one of the main problems plaguing the country and constraining its economic and social development is the weak and deteriorating capacity of the public service. The protracted civil war did not only destroy the pre-war institutional and human resource capacities in the civil and public services, but also significantly hampered human capital development and institutional development, which are required for effective post-war reconstruction and national development. Over the years, the public sector has suffered a progressive depletion of skilled manpower in the middle level of professional and technical staff. This is evident when comparing the composition of Sierra Leone's core civil service to other African countries.
In the past decade, several interventions were attempted, but these have been diffused and uncoordinated with minimal impact. Some of the approaches adopted were seen to be unsustainable in the long run and have undermined efforts at comprehensive, holistic reform. In this context, a consensus emerged that a lasting and sustainable approach to public sector reform in Sierra Leone would have to be an holistic one that ensures competitive remuneration of a rationalized, skilled and well-motivated workforce whose performance is effectively and efficiently managed to maximize public sector output and service delivery.
The Public Sector Reform Unit embarked on the production of this video documentary that captures key results, activities, successes and challenges, as well as future direction of reforms in the country.
The project uses a kind of new lending mechanism, which is basically results-based lending. So the project works on the achievement of disbursement-linked indicators. So when the project meets any of its targets, then a certain amount of money, in this case $1 million, is put into the consolidated fund. And basically those targets need to be achieved by everybody working on the project. So it does help us to work in a much more collaborative way. That's not to say there's no challenges. There's a lot of challenges.
Post-war period, we had an exodus of people from the civil service, a drain of brain from public service. And then in the immediate post-war period, there was a huge demand for filling a lot of vacancies in what they call the missing middle. That is those in between grades 7 and 14 of the public service. And the role of the PSC then was to ensure that a lot of the vacancies in that missing middle were adequately filled.
Since independence, we claim that we are one of the best public services in the world, blah, blah, blah. We are leaders and whatnot. But what happened? We stagnated. We never moved. You cannot dwell on past glories. Historically, within the historical context, yes. But in terms of the realities of life, currency of affairs, day-to-day and whatnot, and forward-looking, you have to move. Right? Even Britain, who were from under whose banner we hailed from, right? We got our independence and whatnot. That we have moved on.
The Governance Secretariat initially came as a result of the post-war reconstruction activities. After that, we felt that there was a need for also kind of improve on public service delivery. Initially, it was about reconstruction, resettlement, and rehabilitation. But then there are also issues relating to service delivery generally within the ministries, departments, and agencies. So the transforming from the Governance Secretariat to really Public Sector Reform Unit was a kind of transition from immediate post-war reconstruction to sustain service delivery within the system. And also, during the Governance Secretariat, although government was a principal partner, under the PSRU, government became the sole partner of the PSRU. It's like government took over leadership of the public sector reform within Sierra Leone.
In 2012, the government of Sierra Leone and the World Bank signed an agreement to implement the Pay and Performance Project in Sierra Leone. The $17 million United States dollars project aimed at financing the priority pay performance reforms in the civil service, which are needed to achieve the economic growth and poverty reduction strategy.
The bank has decided to support the government of Sierra Leone since the end of the civil war. There was a lot of work to do in the public sector that was destroyed. and it was not able to perform the responsibilities and duties. Since then, the bank committed loans and money to do some work on the decentralization, public financial management, anti-corruption area.
The way the current pay and performance project is, we have three major components. There's a pay reform component, there's a recruitment and staffing component, and there's a performance management component. It will interest you to note that most of the deliverables or the DLIs, disposable linked indicators, I mean, they are really akin to the HRMO. And HRMO takes the lead in like two of the major reform components, the pay aspect and then the recruitment and then the pay performance management. Because in terms of recruitment, it's actually the PSC.
The project looks at integrity of the entire payroll as the part of the reforms process, while maintaining an affordable and sustainable public service wage bill in sync with the government recurrent revenue. The Public Service Commission has stated in the 1991 Constitution has the responsibility to recruit aspiring civil servants who meet the benchmark for recruitment into the civil service. This system through a transparent, competitive and merit-based process. Vacancies are advertised and selection is based on interviews and examination conducted. The Human Resource Management Office, which used to be the Establishment Office, introduces a transparent result-oriented individual performance appraisal system. This system links individual and organizational performance by relating the agreed set targets and objectives of civil servants to the departmental objectives.
Our mistake has been since the 1960s, we had policies, we had budget every year, we spend money, but we weren't able to put value for that money that we were spent. We have not been working for effectiveness and efficiency. So promotions were not based on how efficient you are and your productivity. It was based on how I see you. It was based on sequence of arrival here. It was based on how much you relate to your boss and so forth. So in that vein, we were really looking for those who could deliver. We were looking for those who one could say they are very submissive and amibobo and all of these things. It hasn't taken this country to anywhere.
To affirm his support for performance management and accountability, His Excellency Dr. Ernest Baikoroma now signs an annual performance contract which reflects policy outcomes of ministries. The Pay and Performance Project is holistically government-led, with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development providing leadership in its implementation.
At the steering committee level, the Ministry of Finance plays a vital role in coordinating and overseeing the entire project itself. So all what is being done comes at the level of the minister, who sits in as chair of that steering committee, and they oversee the entire project.
As part of its implementation strategy, the finances are transparent, managed using the country accounting system.
The specific reform that we instituted with that project is the use of country systems, country accounting systems. What used to happen in the past was that projects will come, they will have separate accounting systems from government. But with the pay and performance projects, my department, during the negotiations, insisted, and in collaboration, of course, an agreement with World Bank, that we will use country systems so that we don't have parallel systems running at the same time. So that at the end of the project, the changes would have taken place, but at the same time, government systems will continue to run.
The Public Sector Reforms Unit, which coordinates and gives strategic guidance to government reforms, partner with diverse agencies to roll out the Pay and Performance Project. Civil servants were reached throughout the country to showcase the significance of the reforms.
If you look at the totality of the reform program, what you see is a very gradual movement towards a more modern approach to managing the civil service. Shifting away from just administration where there is excessive subjectivity to processes that can be clearly defined and measured and gauged and assessed. We're also looking at a system that can lead to efficiency, so that people can do things and do them well, but they should also do them quickly. So it is not enough to simply do things well, they have to do them quickly. So that is effectiveness and efficiency.
Government needs to reinforce its reforms process. We still have not got to where we should get to. So there is value, for example, to keep those institutions such as the PSRU, moving those change management things, this performance management directorate. These are things that they should begin to think about, that they legislate it, in fact, so that everybody in governance or whoever comes to govern this country always know that it has to be done on the basis of performance.
That is the issue of having to deal with the attitudes of people towards reform. There are a lot of people in the service who are accustomed to doing things in a certain way over a period of time, probably 20, 30 years. To get them to begin to accept that things have to be done differently, they now have to be held to account for things that they do on a regular basis. They now have to be assessed on a regular basis. Now, it takes time, so the impact will be felt at a much later period.
Top management grades only represent slightly over 1% of the civil service. Professional and technical staff constitutes only about 11% of the total civil service workforce. The absence of skilled manpower left the civil service inefficient and incapacitated to delivery of services to enhance national development for the people of Sierra Leone.
The civil service, as you know, is supposed to play a crucial role in the realization of the aspiration of the people of Sierra Leone. And of course, over the years, a lot of problems have actually resulted in the service not being efficient to the expectation of our clients, which are the people, because a lot of system processes have actually declined and service delivery has been poor.
There have been extensive and prolonged consultations, both within government and development partners, on strategies for turning this situation around and improving performance in the public service.
Civil service reforms in the civil service of Sierra Leone dates as far back as the 1980s, when structural adjustment programs were introduced in Sierra Leone. But of course, they were more like tied towards revamping the economic and financial systems. And of course, they focus more on reducing government expenditure or the burden on government. So through redundancies, closure of public operations and the creation of private sector that to actually serve the purpose of some of the activities that government undertake. So, but of course, these reforms were not effective because more focus was on revamping the economic and financial systems.
We had a package from the World Bank. We tied those packages to delivery service delivery in the civil service. Our aim was to create a performance-oriented public service. A public service that was efficient, a public service that was lean, a public service that would deliver services to the people, a public service that motivated its workforce. Those were our major concerns, really.
Performance is effectively and efficiently managed to maximize public sector output and service delivery. The project aimed at stepping up competitiveness in the civil service, creating a fair play system, which in turn will attract and retain qualified professionals in the civil service.
The overall objective of the project itself is to make it a better one. And how do we do it? Is to ensure that all the key positions that are involved in delivering services are adequately remunerated, to ensure that we not only attract them, but also to retain their services, because these days the labor market is out there and it's highly competitive.
3 key reform initiatives formed the bedrock of the entire reform process: pay reform, recruitment and staffing, and performance management. Pay reform puts forward a comprehensive approach to reforming public sector pay. To achieve this, the strategy recognizes that remuneration should be commensurate with the responsibilities of the job, which in turn demands a comprehensive job evaluation and grading exercise before enhanced pay is introduced in a pay structure.
But one thing that was lacking in the civil service originally was a key performance management process. But then here we said, okay, if you are going to be motivated, we also have to monitor your your performance, to ensure that your performance is linked, or whatever you are having as a reward is linked to your performance.
The project looks at the integrity of the entire payroll as part of the reform process, while maintaining an affordable and sustainable public service wage bill in sync with the government's recurrent revenue.
Here there's an over-reliance on the public service for employment. Nevertheless, the government cannot continue to employ people that they will be unable to pay over a period of time. And so there is need to manage the government payroll, the wage bill, effectively. There is need to ensure, yes, on the one hand, there is need to give jobs to people, critical positions, people who make the decision, people who make the policies, people who implement, people who monitor. And that's why the middle level in the service is critical.
Performance management under the Pay and Performance Project is third objective that looks at performance appraisals.
Like I said, it's a holistic project because you can't have pay reform without performance management, and you can't have those two without having the right people, which is the recruitment and staffing element of it. So we'll just keep focusing on those DLIs that we've agreed on. I think everybody is working much better together than they were maybe 2-3 years ago. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful about. The impact of the Ebola, I think there's a lot of lessons there for all of the institutions, especially governance institutions. So very confident about the future.